So there I was, biology degree in hand, teaching teenagers about Punnett squares and genetic impossibilities, when I discovered my own life had become the ultimate scientific anomaly, my sterile fiancé's pregnant mistress, who happened to be my cousin, carrying my brother's baby, at my wedding, during the vows. You know that moment when your entire existence becomes a Jerry Springer episode you never auditioned for? That was my Saturday, July 14th. High noon in Austin, Texas, where the temperature hits triple digits, and apparently so does family betrayal. My name's Eloisa Barrett, 32, and I teach biology at Westlake High School. I spend my days explaining dominant and recessive traits to teenagers who can barely spell mitochondria. Ironic, considering I missed the most obvious genetic red flag in my own relationship for over 2 years. Corbin Wade, 33, marketing director. 6 feet of mediocre ambition wrapped in Brooks Brothers suits and empty promises about our future family. We met at a charity gala. Because of course we did, this is Austin, where everyone's either in tech or pretending to care about sustainable urban farming. He was charming in that aggressively Texan way, all yes ma'am and barbecue opinions. I fell for it like an idiot with a PhD. 2 years and 3 months of Saturday morning farmers markets, arguing about whether Franklin's or La Barbique had better brisket, tolerating his obsession with University of Texas football, despite never attending UT. 2 years of him mentioning kids at every holiday dinner, painting this picture of suburban bliss in Circle C Ranch with 2.5 children and a golden retriever named something predictable like Buddy. The proposal happened at Mount Bunnell during sunset. Basic, but I'll admit the view sold it. He got down on one knee, tourists applauding like trained seals, and I said yes because sometimes even biology teachers ignore obvious warning signs, like how he never wanted to discuss actual family planning timelines, or see a fertility specialist, just to check, or answer direct questions about his medical history beyond, "I'm healthy, babe." 3 days before the wedding, I was hunting for his passport. We'd planned 2 weeks in Greece, Santorini, Mykonos, the full Instagram itinerary. His passport wasn't in the obvious places, so I started excavating his disaster of a home office. The man organized his life like a freshman dorm room, which should have been red flag number 47. But here we were. Bottom drawer, manila folder, medical documents dated 12 years back, Austin Fertility Center, semen analysis report. Patient, Wade Corbin James. Sperm concentration, 0. Morphology, non-viable. Motility, absent. Post-chemotherapy analysis, following testicular cancer treatment, age 21. Prognosis, permanent sterility. I sat there on his office floor, air conditioning humming, staring at clinical proof that every conversation about baby names and nursery colors had been performance art. He'd had cancer. At 21. Survived. Lost fertility. Never mentioned it. Not once. Not during the "what's your biggest secret" game on our 3rd date. Not when I casually mentioned wanting kids someday. Not when we argued about public versus private school for children who would never exist. My hands shook. Not from heartbreak. I'm not that romantic. From pure, calculated rage. Because Corbin wasn't just lying about his medical history. He was lying about our entire future. And I don't do well with data manipulation. I photographed every page, uploaded them to a private cloud folder, put everything back exactly as I found it. Then I went downstairs where he was watching SportsCenter and eating my hummus straight from the container, because boundaries were apparently just suggestions to this man. "Find it?" he asked, not looking up. "Yep. Bottom drawer, just like you said." The lies flowed so easily from him. Made me wonder what else I'd missed. I spent that night in my apartment. Kept my own place despite his passive-aggressive hints about saving money by moving in together, doing what any self-respecting scientist would do. Research, private investigators in Austin, reviews, success rates, discretion guarantees. By 2 a.m., I'd hired Fletcher Investigations, $3,000 from my emergency fund, worth every penny for answers that would either destroy my paranoia or confirm my worst suspicions. "I need comprehensive surveillance on 2 individuals," I told Fletcher over the phone. Gave him Corbin's details. then added, "And my cousin, Melinda Barrett, 29. Currently pregnant, approximately 4 to 5 months along. I need to know who the father is." Fletcher didn't ask why. Professional investigators never do. "How fast can you work?" I asked. "How fast do you need answers?" "I'm getting married in 72 hours. Then you'll have them in 48. He delivered in 36. The email arrived Thursday evening. Subject line, "Complete findings attached." Surveillance photos. Melinda and my brother Alden entering a Super 8 motel off I-35. Timestamps dating back 14 months. Text message screenshots. Apparently Fletcher had connections who could access phone records, which felt illegal. But I wasn't asking questions. Messages between Melinda and Alden discussing how to tell Eloisa, and maybe after the wedding would be better. But the crown jewel, the absolute masterpiece of evidence, was the DNA analysis. Fletcher hadn't just confirmed the affair. He'd obtained preliminary genetic markers suggesting paternity probability. I'd given him a sample from Alden's hairbrush when I visited Mom's house for wedding planning earlier that week. Told him I needed family genetic history for medical purposes. He probably thought I was insane, but he handed it over. The preliminary analysis showed strong likelihood of paternity based on genetic markers. Not courtroom-grade evidence yet, but enough to confirm my suspicions and justify further testing after birth. Alden Barrett was almost certainly the father of Melinda's baby. My brother, my cousin, my sterile fiancé's imaginary miracle child. I sat there in my apartment, laptop open, evidence folders organized with the precision of someone who alphabetizes their spice rack, and started laughing. The kind of laughter that sounds concerning to neighbors. The kind that makes you question your grip on reality. But here's the thing about being a biology teacher. You learn to appreciate the beautiful complexity of nature. Genetic inheritance, probability, the mathematical certainty that liars always leave evidence. And I had all the evidence I needed. Friday morning, I went to FedEx office on South Congress. Printed everything. Color copies, high resolution, spiral bound like a dissertation. Made 3 sets. Sealed them in 3 separate envelopes. Friday afternoon, I met with Father Patrick at St. Mary's Cathedral. Because, yes, we were having a full Catholic ceremony despite Corbin's family being Baptist and mine being lapsed everything. His mother insisted. I didn't care anymore. "Father Patrick," I said, placing the envelopes in his hands, "I need you to do something unusual during tomorrow's ceremony." He looked concerned. Priests always do when brides show up alone the day before their wedding. "If anything disrupts the ceremony tomorrow, and I mean anything, I need you to open these envelopes and read their contents out loud. Every word. Every page. Can you do that? Eloisa, is everything all right?" "It will be. Tomorrow at noon. I promise." Friday night, I got a manicure. Deep red. Called it Revenge Crimson in my head. Ate Tex-Mex at Chuy's, drank exactly 2 margaritas, went home, and slept like someone who'd just submitted their doctoral thesis. Saturday morning, I woke up at 6 a.m., got my hair done at the salon, loose curls, very romantic, very traditional bride. Makeup artist came to my apartment at 9, made me look luminous, which felt appropriate for someone about to commit social homicide. The dress was hanging in my closet. Vera Wang. Off-white because I'm realistic about symbolism. Cost more than my car payment. Fit perfectly because I'd stress-eaten exactly 0 times during this entire disaster, running on pure vindictive energy instead. I put it on, looked in the mirror, saw someone who'd just weaponized a wedding ceremony into the most educational biology lesson of her career. My phone buzzed. Text from Corbin. "Can't wait to marry you. Love you so much. See you at the altar." I smiled, texted back, "See you there." Then I grabbed my phone, my evidence folder backup copy, and headed to St. Mary's Cathedral. It was time for church. St. Mary's Cathedral looked like a Pinterest board exploded. White roses everywhere. Because Corbin's mother, Patricia Wade, had opinions about classic elegance that she expressed with the subtlety of a megaphone. Cream-colored ribbon on every pew. String quartet playing Pachelbel's canon like we were the first couple in history to discover it. 200 guests in their summer wedding best, pretending Austin humidity wasn't turning everyone's hair into science experiments. I arrived in the bridal suite at 10:30. My maid of honor, Thea Morrison, college roommate, patent attorney, the only person I trusted not to sleep with my relatives, took one look at my face and knew something was catastrophic. "You're too calm," she said, adjusting my veil. "Brides are supposed to be nervous wrecks. You look like you're about to defend a dissertation. Close enough? Eloisa, what did you do?" "Nothing yet, but ask me again in 90 minutes. She stared at me. Thea's known me since freshman year at Rice University, watched me pull all-nighters for organic chemistry, survive a thesis advisor who thought sleep was for the weak, and once spend 6 hours alphabetizing my textbooks by publication date. She knew when I was operating on a different level of focus. "Should I be worried?" she asked. "Depends. Do you have bail money?" "Always." "Then we're fine." Downstairs, I could hear the chaos of pre-ceremony coordination. Corbin's groomsmen, all marketing bros named things like Tucker and Rhett, probably arguing about whether to hit 6th Street bars after the reception. My family arriving in clusters because Barretts don't do anything quietly. Mom's voice carried through the cathedral ventilation system, probably micromanaging the flower arrangements despite the wedding planner's visible exhaustion. And somewhere in that crowd, Melinda was waddling around 5 months pregnant, playing innocent cousin, probably wearing something pastel and maternity chic from one of those boutiques on South Congress that charge $300 for stretchy fabric. Alden would be there too. My brother. 35 years old, works in commercial real estate, drives a Tesla he can't actually afford, and apparently couldn't keep his hands off our cousin during family gatherings. Mathematical precision suggested the conception happened around Thanksgiving, which meant they'd been sneaking around during turkey dinner while I passed the cranberry sauce like an idiot. The whole thing had a Greek tragedy quality, except with more breakfast tacos and fewer togas. 11:45. Thea handed me my bouquet, white peonies, because I'd actually cared about those details back when I thought this wedding was real. The photographer wanted pre-ceremony shots. I smiled on command, thinking about how these photos would age beautifully once context was added. "You look stunning," the photographer said. "Absolutely radiant." "Thank you. I've been hydrating. Revenge is excellent for the complexion." 11:55. The wedding coordinator, an aggressively perky woman named Shelby who spoke entirely in exclamation points, poked her head into the bridal suite. "5 minutes, Eloisa. Everyone's seated. The groom is at the altar. Are you ready for your happily ever after?" "Absolutely ready." Thea gave me one final look. "Whatever happens out there? I know. You'll defend me in court." I was going to say I'll help you hide the body, but legal defense works too. I loved her. Noon. The church doors opened. Pachelbel's canon swelled to that crescendo that makes everyone cry at weddings. I stepped into the center aisle, bouquet in hand, veil perfectly arranged, wearing a smile that would have won Oscars. 200 faces turned toward me. I recognized most of them. Corbin's work colleagues, probably wondering if the open bar would be worth sitting through Catholic ceremony length. My teacher friends from Westlake High, already tearing up because Kendra from AP English cries at commercials. Distant relatives who only showed up for free food and family drama. And there, 4th row left, sat Melinda. Powder blue maternity dress, hands resting on her belly like a Madonna painting, looking serene and holy and absolutely full of it. Next to her, Alden, navy suit, beard he'd grown recently, probably thinking it made him look distinguished instead of like someone who'd betrayed his sister with their cousin. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Coward. I kept walking. Slow, measured steps, making eye contact with guests, playing the part. At the altar, Corbin stood there looking genuinely emotional, tears in his eyes. His best man Tucker, finance bro, CrossFit enthusiast, definitely voted for crypto regulations, clapped him on the shoulder supportively. Father Patrick waited with his priest face on, holding his Bible and probably my 3 envelopes somewhere within cassock range. We'd rehearsed this Friday night. He knew his role. I reached the altar, handed my bouquet to Thea, took Corbin's hands. He whispered, "You're so beautiful." I whispered back, "Thank you." You're so mysterious." He smiled, confused. Before he could ask what I meant, Father Patrick cleared his throat. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today." That's when Melinda decided to contribute to the ceremony. "Stop!" 200 heads swiveled. Melinda stood up, hands on belly, face flushed, performing distress like a community theater audition. "I can't let this happen," she announced, voice shaking with what I'm sure she thought was convincing emotion. "I'm pregnant, and Corbin is the father." Perfect silence. The kind where you can hear air conditioning vents humming. Corbin's face did something between confusion and panic. "What? Melinda, what are you—" 5 months, she continued, really committing to the scene. "We've been seeing each other. I'm so sorry, Eloisa. I'm so sorry. But he needs to know about his baby." Patricia Wade gasped like she'd been shot. Tucker, the best man, looked like his CrossFit supplements had stopped working. The string quartet sat frozen, violins in hand, probably wondering if this was performance art. My mother shouted, "Melinda Barrett, sit down right now." But I just smiled, turned to Corbin, watched him try to formulate words with a brain clearly short-circuiting. "Corbin," I said, loud enough for the cathedral acoustics to carry. "That's amazing news. Congratulations on the baby." He blinked. "Eloisa, I swear I never—" "No, really. I'm impressed. Truly." I turned to Father Patrick. "Father, could you open those envelopes now?" His eyes widened slightly, but he reached into his cassock and pulled out the 3 sealed packets. "Read them," I said. "Out loud. Every page. Every word." "Eloisa, what is this?" Corbin's voice had panic edges now. "Science," I said. "Just science." Father Patrick opened the first envelope, pulled out the documents. Started reading. Austin Fertility Center. Patient, Wade Corbin James. Date of analysis, 12 years prior. Semen analysis results. I watched Corbin's face drain of color. Father Patrick continued. Bless his commitment to thorough liturgy. Sperm concentration, 0. Morphology, non-viable. Motility, absent. Post-chemotherapy analysis following testicular cancer treatment, age 21. Diagnosis, permanent sterility. The cathedral went from silent to a different kind of silent. The kind where everyone's forgotten how to breathe. "He's sterile," I announced, turning to address the congregation like I was teaching 4th period biology. "Has been since college. Testicular cancer. Very unfortunate. 0% chance of natural conception. Medically impossible." Patricia Wade made a sound like a wounded animal. Corbin tried to grab my arm. "Eloisa, let me explain." "Oh, we're not done." I gestured to Father Patrick. "Second envelope, please." He opened it. This one had photographs. Fletcher Investigations did excellent work. High resolution, timestamps, GPS coordinates. "These are surveillance photos," Father Patrick read, looking increasingly uncomfortable but soldiering through. Subjects, Melinda Barrett and Alden Barrett. Location, Super 8 Motel, Interstate 35. Multiple dates spanning 14 months. I found Alden in the crowd. He'd gone pale. Melinda had sat back down, hands clutching her belly, looking like she wanted the floor to swallow her. "My brother," I explained to the guests, educational tone firmly in place. "And my cousin. Apparently very close family ties." The text messages in that packet are particularly illuminating. Lots of discussion about keeping secrets, and what Eloisa doesn't know won't hurt her. My mother stood up. "Alden Marcus Barrett, what have you done?" Alden didn't answer. Just stared at the floor like it held answers. "Third envelope," I told Father Patrick. This one he opened more carefully. Read the header. Looked at me with something between sympathy and awe. "Preliminary genetic analysis," he read. "Alleged father, Alden Barrett. Mother, Melinda Barrett. Genetic markers collected and analyzed. Strong probability of paternity indicated based on available evidence. Full confirmation, recommended post-birth." And there it was. Scientific probability. The beautiful reliability of genetics, even in preliminary form. I turned back to Melinda, who was crying now. Real tears this time, not performance tears. So, just to clarify the biology here, I said, projecting like I was lecturing to a gymnasium. Corbin is sterile. You're pregnant with my brother's baby, and you both thought accusing him at my wedding would accomplish what? Exactly? Sympathy? Drama? Free publicity? Melinda sobbed. Alden stood up, tried to approach. Eloisa, we didn't mean for this to... Sit down, Alden. He sat. I turned to Corbin, who looked like he'd been hit by a truck carrying medical textbooks. You knew you were sterile, I said quietly, just for him. Over 2 years. All those conversations about baby names, nursery colors, family planning. You lied to my face. Every single day. I was going to tell you. When? After we adopted? After I spent years trying to conceive naturally and thinking something was wrong with me? He had no answer. Of course he didn't. I took off the engagement ring, 3-carat princess cut, classic and boring, and placed it in his palm. Keep it. Sell it. I don't care. I turned to face the congregation one final time. Thank you all for coming. There won't be a reception, obviously. But there's a taco truck on 5th Street that does excellent al pastor. My treat. Then I picked up my dress, walked back down that aisle, and left my own wedding. Thea caught up with me in the parking lot, holding my bouquet. That, she said, was the most savage thing I've ever witnessed. I'm a teacher. We don't tolerate cheating. What now? Now? I go to Cancun, alone. 2 weeks. All inclusive. You're still going on the honeymoon? I paid for it. Might as well enjoy it. She hugged me. You're my hero. I'm just someone who understands genetics. Cancun delivered exactly what I needed. Overpriced margaritas, aggressive sunshine, and blessed silence from everyone who'd attended my public execution disguised as a wedding ceremony. The resort, some all-inclusive monstrosity on the hotel zone, had swim-up bars, infinity pools, and staff trained to not ask questions when solo brides showed up with tan lines from removed engagement rings. I spent the first 3 days in a poolside cabana, working through a reading list I'd been ignoring for over 2 years. Molecular biology journals, research papers on CRISPR applications, anything that reminded me my brain was good for more than trusting mediocre men with secrets. Day 4, I finally checked my phone. 87 missed calls. 143 text messages. My email inbox looked like a digital crime scene. Mom, call me immediately. This family is a disaster. Thea, you're a legend. Also, Corbin's been calling me. Blocked him. Unknown numbers that were probably Corbin, Melinda, or Alden trying to explain the unexplainable. And one email that caught my attention because the sender was Patricia Wade, Corbin's mother, she of the white rose opinions and passive-aggressive comments about my career being so time-consuming for a future wife. Subject line, we need to talk about what you've done. I opened it with the same enthusiasm I'd give a root canal. Eloisa, your behavior at the cathedral was absolutely unforgivable. You humiliated my son in front of his colleagues, friends, and family. Whatever issues you two were having should have been handled privately. I raised Corbin better than this. And frankly, I expected more from someone with your education. We will be pursuing legal action for emotional distress and defamation. You destroyed my son's reputation over what appears to be a misunderstanding about his medical history. Expect to hear from our attorney. Patricia. I read it twice. Then started laughing so hard the cabana attendant asked if I needed water. Legal action for defamation, because I'd publicly shared medical documents proving her son was a liar. This woman had clearly never met discovery laws. I forwarded the email to Thea with one line. Please advise. She responded in 30 seconds. She has 0 case. Save everything. If they're stupid enough to sue, we'll counterclaim for fraud and emotional distress. Also, you need to see something. Checking your personal email. I switched to my personal account. Thea had forwarded a link to a Facebook post. Corbin's profile. Public setting. Posted 2 days after the wedding. Sometimes life takes unexpected turns. Eloisa and I have decided to part ways. I wish her nothing but the best and ask for privacy during this difficult time. Thank you to everyone who's reached out with support. 462 comments. I scrolled through them like watching a car crash in slow motion. Tucker, the best man. You dodged a bullet, bro. Stay strong. Some marketing colleague. Her loss, man. You're a catch. Corbin's college friend. Women be crazy. You'll find better. And then, buried in the responses, a comment from someone named Giselle Hartley that made me sit up straight. Corbin, I'm so sorry you're going through this. I know how hard it is when someone you trust betrays you. If you need to talk, I'm here. Always. Giselle. Followed by Corbin's reply. Thanks, Giselle. Means a lot. Coffee soon? I clicked on Giselle's profile. 28. Marketing coordinator at the same firm where Corbin worked. Profile picture. Blonde, fitness enthusiast, definitely owned athleisure that cost more than my monthly car payment. Her timeline was public. I scrolled back 6 months. Photo from March. Company happy hour. Giselle and Corbin laughing over cocktails, his arm around her shoulders. Caption, best work crew ever. April. Team lunch with these amazing humans. Corbin prominently featured, sitting next to Giselle. May. Celebrating Q2 wins. Group shot, but Corbin and Giselle were positioned like people who'd coordinated their outfits. June, 3 weeks before our wedding. Sometimes the best connections happen when you least expect them. Posted at 11 p.m. No photo. 14 likes. Corbin's like was first. I took screenshots of everything, sent them to Fletcher Investigations with a simple message. Need complete background check and surveillance history on Giselle Hartley. Prioritize any connection to Corbin Wade during the past 6 months. Then I ordered another margarita and returned to my molecular biology journal like a functional adult. Fletcher responded 8 hours later with a 40-page report that read like a soap opera written by people who'd failed subtlety class. Giselle Hartley, marketing coordinator, started at Corbin's firm 14 months ago. Within 4 months, she and Corbin were traveling together for client meetings in Dallas, Houston, San Antonio. Hotel receipts showed adjoining rooms that became single rooms by month 5. Credit card statements, Fletcher's contacts were genuinely impressive and possibly illegal, showed Corbin had been paying for dinners at expensive Austin restaurants I'd never been to. Justine's Brasserie. Uchi. Odd Duck. All dates when he'd told me he was working late on campaigns. Phone records indicated daily calls between them, averaging 45 minutes each. Text message samples that Fletcher somehow acquired included gems like, "Can't wait to see you tonight," and "This is complicated but worth it." The kicker. Giselle had accompanied Corbin to a medical appointment at Austin Fertility Center 6 months ago, the same center that had diagnosed his sterility 12 years prior. Appointment notes. Again, Fletcher's methods were questionable but effective. Indicated patient and partner discussing IVF options with donor material. Partner. Not fiancé. Partner. He'd been planning a future with her while planning a wedding with me. I sat there on my resort balcony, watching the Caribbean sunset turn everything gold and pink, and felt something shift from anger to cold calculation. This wasn't just about public humiliation anymore. This was fraud. Financial fraud. I'd spent $23,000 on a wedding that Corbin knew would never happen. Venue deposits, catering, photographer, flowers, the dress, his suit rental, invitations, the full catastrophic expenses of American wedding culture. We'd kept finances separate. I'm not completely naive. But I'd paid for everything wedding-related because he'd claimed his marketing salary was tight after buying his downtown condo. Noble independent woman, splitting costs fairly. Except he'd been funneling money to another woman the entire time. I opened my laptop, started building spreadsheets. Every expense, every receipt, every deposit and transaction related to our relationship. Wedding costs. The Greece trip I'd booked and paid for. Furniture I'd purchased for his condo because he wanted us to build our space together. Even the ridiculous couples cooking class he'd insisted on at Central Market that cost $300 and taught us absolutely nothing except that he couldn't dice an onion. Total financial investment in relationship with Corbin Wade, $47,863. I created a second document. Timeline of deception. Every lie he'd told. Every work event that was probably a date with Giselle. Every conversation about our future family that he knew was impossible. Then I researched Texas fraud laws, specifically fraudulent inducement, intentional misrepresentation, and civil theft. Turns out, lying to someone about your fertility status while discussing marriage and children meets several interesting legal definitions, especially when combined with financial exploitation and evidence of simultaneous relationships. Day 7 in Cancun, I called Thea. I need you to draft a lawsuit. Civil fraud, financial restitution, emotional distress, everything. Against Corbin and Giselle Hartley. She knew he was engaged, participated in the deception. Texas recognizes alienation of affection in certain contexts. Thea was quiet for a moment. You want to go nuclear? I want to recoup my investment and ensure this doesn't happen to whoever he tricks next. I'll need all your documentation. Already organized. Sending it now. Eloisa, are you okay? Interesting question. Was I okay? I'd been publicly betrayed, lied to for over 2 years, financially exploited and humiliated in front of 200 people by my own family members. But I was also sitting in Cancun with a margarita, a molecular biology journal, and a legal strategy that would make my ex-fiancé regret every decision he'd made since buying that engagement ring. I'm scientifically approaching a problem that requires systematic solution, I said. So yes, I'm perfectly okay. That's the most terrifying thing you've ever said. Thank you. I spent the remaining week in Mexico building my case. Every morning, coffee on the balcony while organizing evidence. Afternoons, swimming and reading legal precedents on my waterproof tablet. Evenings, video calls with Thea reviewing strategy. We filed the lawsuit 2 days after I returned to Austin. $47,863 in damages, plus legal fees, plus punitive damages for intentional fraud. Corbin's attorney, some corporate guy named Harrison who probably charged by the breath, sent a threatening letter within 24 hours. Thea responded with our evidence packet. 60 pages. Medical fraud, financial exploitation, timeline of deception, Giselle's involvement, hotel receipts, text messages, the works. Harrison went quiet. Patricia Wade sent another email, this one considerably less confident. Perhaps we can discuss this matter privately before it becomes more complicated. I replied, see you in court. Because some lessons require public education. And I'm an excellent teacher. Discovery phase in civil litigation is a beautiful thing when you're the plaintiff with nothing to hide and everything to gain. Corbin's attorney Harrison learned this the hard way when Thea subpoenaed 2 years of financial records, phone logs, and employment correspondence from his client. Turns out, lying under oath is substantially harder than lying to your fiancé. The deposition happened in September, 2 months after the cathedral incident. Conference room at Thea's firm downtown, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lady Bird Lake. Everything designed to intimidate people who thought they could outsmart the legal system. Corbin showed up looking like he'd aged 5 years. Navy suit, probably the same one from the wedding. Harrison beside him, already sweating despite the aggressive air conditioning. I sat across the table, yellow legal pad in front of me, wearing my favorite gray pencil skirt, and the expression I use when students try to convince me their dog actually ate their homework. Thea started gentle. Mr. Wade, when did you first become aware of your sterility? I was 21. After the cancer treatment. And when did you begin your relationship with Ms. Barrett? About 2 years and 3 months before the scheduled wedding date. At any point during those 2 years and 3 months did you disclose your medical condition to Ms. Barrett? Silence. Harrison whispered something. Corbin cleared his throat. No. Did you and Ms. Barrett discuss having children? Yes. Frequently? Yes. Can you estimate how many conversations you had about starting a family? He looked miserable. I don't know. Dozens. Maybe more. And during these dozens of conversations about children you knew you couldn't biologically father. Did you ever consider telling Ms. Barrett the truth? I was going to. You just what, Mr. Wade? I didn't want to lose her. Thea let that hang in the air for a moment, then pivoted. Let's discuss your relationship with Giselle Hartley. Harrison objected. Thea produced hotel receipts. Harrison went quiet. How long have you known Ms. Hartley? She started at the firm about 14 months before the wedding date. And when did your relationship become romantic? I don't know that I'd call it. Mr. Wade, we have text messages referring to her as the best thing that ever happened to you. We have hotel records showing shared rooms in 3 Texas cities. We have testimony from colleagues who witnessed you leaving work functions together. So let's try this again. When did your relationship become romantic? He crumbled like wet tissue paper. About 4 months after she started. So, 10 months before the wedding. 10 months before the wedding. While he was telling me about honeymoon destinations and baby names. Were you physically intimate with Ms. Hartley while engaged to Ms. Barrett? Yes. How many times? I don't have an exact estimate. 20, maybe 30 times. I wrote a note on my legal pad. Efficient multitasker. Should add that to his LinkedIn. Thea continued. Did Ms. Hartley know you were engaged? Yes. Did she know about Ms. Barrett's wedding planning and financial investments in your future together? I assume so. We worked in the same building. People talked. So she was aware she was participating in a deception that was costing Ms. Barrett tens of thousands of dollars? Harrison tried to object again. Thea overruled him with case law. I was enjoying this more than I'd enjoyed anything since discovering molecular genetics. Did you accompany Ms. Hartley to Austin Fertility Center in February? Corbin's face did something complicated. Yes. Why? We were discussing options. What kind of options, Mr. Wade? IVF. With donor material. So, to clarify, while engaged to Ms. Barrett and discussing starting a family with her, a family you knew was biologically impossible, you were simultaneously planning to use assisted reproduction with Ms. Hartley? It wasn't like that. What was it like? He had no answer that wouldn't destroy him further. Thea spent 3 more hours systematically demolishing every defense Harrison had prepared. By the end, Corbin looked like he'd been processed through a wood chipper made of legal precedents. The real gift came during Giselle's deposition 2 weeks later. She showed up in business casual, blonde hair in a professional ponytail, playing the innocent bystander caught in someone else's drama. Lasted approximately 12 minutes before Thea broke her like a fortune cookie. Ms. Hartley, when did Mr. Wade inform you he was engaged? Early on. We were just friends then. When did friendship become more? It just happened naturally. On a specific date, presumably. In a specific location. Can you provide details? She stammered. Provided details. A hotel in Houston during a client meeting that turned out to be 90% affair, 10% actual work. Did you feel any ethical concerns about dating an engaged man? It was complicated. Was it complicated when you accompanied him to a fertility clinic to plan your future children while his fiancée was planning a wedding? Giselle's attorney, some junior partner who looked fresh out of law school, tried to intervene. Thea buried him in documentation. Did you know Ms. Barrett had invested over $40,000 in wedding preparations? I didn't think about... You didn't think about the financial impact of your actions on another woman? Or you didn't care? I didn't think it would get this far. What exactly did you think would happen, Miss Hartley? No response. Just tears. The performative kind that don't generate sympathy in depositions. By October, Harrison contacted Thea with a settlement offer. $20,000. Take it or leave it. No admission of wrongdoing. Thea called me from her office. They're scared. We can push for more. Counteroffer, I said. Full amount plus legal fees. Public apology from both Corbin and Giselle posted to their social media accounts. And one additional condition. What condition? Corbin has to disclose his medical history to any future romantic partners within the first 3 dates. In writing, with medical documentation. Failure to do so triggers financial penalties payable to a women's health charity of my choosing. Thea laughed. That's probably not legally enforceable. But it'll be fun to demand. We counteroffered. Harrison called it absurd and vindictive. Thea responded, see you in court then. Discovery's been fascinating so far. Imagine what trial will uncover. They settled in November. $47,863. Plus $12,000 in legal fees. Plus public apologies from both Corbin and Giselle, posted to Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, detailing their poor judgment and hurtful actions. The disclosure requirement got negotiated down to strong encouragement rather than legal mandate, but I'll take the moral victory. Corbin's apology went live on a Wednesday afternoon. I was teaching AP biology, explaining Mendelian inheritance to 17-year-olds who barely understood why mitosis mattered. My phone started buzzing. Texts from Thea, Mom, former wedding guests, random high school acquaintances I hadn't spoken to since graduation. I checked during lunch break. Corbin's post had 4,000 shares, 1,700 comments, most of them from women sharing their own stories of men who'd lied about fertility, medical conditions, financial situations, entire secret families. The comments were brutal. My favorite came from someone named Ramona. Karma's not a concept. It's a biology teacher with receipts. Giselle's post lasted 6 hours before she deleted it. Too late. Screenshots live forever. Her company's HR department reportedly had conversations about professional conduct. She transferred to their Dallas office by December. Patricia Wade sent one final email. Eloisa, I hope you're satisfied with what you've accomplished. My son's reputation is ruined. His career is damaged. All because you couldn't handle a private matter privately. I didn't respond. Some people never learn that consequences and accountability aren't the same as revenge. The settlement money hit my account in December. I donated $5,000 to Planned Parenthood in Patricia's name. They sent her a thank you card. I'm told she was thrilled. Used another $10,000 to pay off my car loan. Put $15,000 into retirement accounts. Spent $2,000 on a new wardrobe because nothing says moving forward like clothes that weren't purchased while dating a liar. The remaining amount went into savings. Emergency fund. For actual emergencies. Not funding someone else's fictional future. Melinda gave birth in January. A boy. She and Alden are apparently trying to work through things in couples counseling, which I learned from Mom during Christmas dinner I strategically skipped. Your brother wants to apologize, Mom said over the phone. He can email it. I'll read it eventually. Eloisa, family is important. So is honesty. Let me know when he finds some. I spent Christmas in Colorado with Thea and her family. Skiing, hot chocolate, zero drama. Returned to Austin in January, refreshed and ready for spring semester. That's when I met Owen. The genetics conference happened at the Fairmont Hotel in January, one of those professional development events where scientists gather to discuss CRISPR applications while consuming mediocre conference center coffee and pretending the continental breakfast counts as nutrition. I was presenting research on genetic counseling practices in public education, basically how to teach teenagers about hereditary diseases without traumatizing them. Ironic, considering my recent education in genetic impossibilities involving fraudulent fiancés. Owen Fisher sat 3 rows back during my presentation. 36, medical geneticist at Dell Medical School, specializes in reproductive endocrinology. I noticed him because he actually laughed at my joke about Punnett squares being the gateway drug to understanding why your uncle's theories about family traits are scientifically worthless. After the session, he approached with coffee, and what I'd learn was his standard opening line. That was brilliant. Also, I have to ask, the wedding story that's been circulating in Austin medical circles, that was you? Apparently, my cathedral incident had become case study material in medical ethics courses. Something about patient privacy, disclosure obligations, and the consequences of reproductive deception. Guilty, I said, though I prefer to think of it as applied biology education. It was legendary. I use it in my counseling sessions now. This is why we discuss medical history early. Now we had coffee, then dinner. Then 3 months of dating someone who understood that honesty about genetic limitations isn't optional. It's foundational. Owen's refreshingly straightforward. When I asked about his medical history on date 2, because I learned from experience, he handed me his complete health records, genetic panel results, and fertility analysis without blinking. I appreciate directness, he said. Saves time. Most people find it off-putting. Most people haven't had their wedding turned into a biology demonstration. Fair point. We've been together 8 months now. It's September and I just turned 33 last month. Owen celebrated with a cake shaped like a double helix and a card that read, "Another year older, exponentially wiser." He's never lied about working late because he actually works late. Genetics research involves ridiculous hours. He's never promised impossible futures because his entire profession revolves around managing realistic expectations. And when his mother asked about grandchildren during Sunday dinner, he calmly explained that we'd discuss family planning when and if appropriate, and perhaps she'd like more pot roast instead. I might marry this one. Eventually. Without cathedral drama. Corbin's doing whatever people do after public humiliation and legal settlements. Last I heard through Austin's depressingly small professional circles, he'd taken a marketing position in San Antonio. Fresh start. New city. Probably new lies for new people, though hopefully my settlement terms encourage disclosure. Giselle's still in Dallas. Her LinkedIn profile now emphasizes integrity and professional ethics, which would be hilarious if it weren't so predictable. People who violate ethics always rebrand as ethics enthusiasts afterward. Melinda and Alden are raising their son. They named him Carter, which is fine, I suppose, though I'd have suggested something less likely to become a future frat president. Mom says they're working through things in counseling, which translates to avoiding family gatherings where Eloisa might attend. I'm fine with that arrangement. Mom herself has become surprisingly supportive, possibly because she realized I wasn't the villain in this particular Greek tragedy. She calls weekly, updates me on family drama I don't need to know, and occasionally mentions how impressive my legal victory was. Small steps toward functional family dynamics. Thea remains my hero. She framed the settlement check stub and hung it in her office with a plaque reading, "Evidence-Based Justice." Her firm uses my case in training seminars about thorough documentation and the importance of receipts, literal and figurative. I'm still teaching biology at Westlake High. Still explaining genetic inheritance to teenagers who think they'll never need this information. Still using real-world examples, though I've learned to anonymize the wedding story when discussing genetic testing ethics. So, theoretically, I tell my students, if someone claims a pregnancy that's biologically impossible based on documented medical evidence, what does that tell us? Hands shoot up. These kids love drama disguised as science. That someone's lying, offers Bradley from the third row. More specifically, that multiple people are lying. I correct. And that's when documentation becomes important. Evidence matters. Screenshots matter. Medical records matter. Is this about your wedding, Ms. Barrett? Asks Simone, because teenagers have zero filter and complete access to their parents' gossip. This is about understanding that biology doesn't lie, even when people do. They get it. Maybe they'll remember when they're older and someone tries to manipulate them with medical impossibilities or convenient omissions. That's the thing about teaching. You never know which lessons actually land. But you plant seeds anyway and hope something grows. Life's better now than it was standing at that altar last July. Better than the 2 years and 3 months I spent planning a future with someone who'd already written me out of his real story. Better than pretending everything was fine while ignoring obvious mathematical impossibilities in our relationship timeline. I wake up next to someone who thinks genetic counseling is foreplay. I teach students who actually appreciate when biology explains family drama. I have savings accounts that aren't funding someone else's secret life. And I know exactly what my limits are regarding dishonesty. Zero tolerance, maximum consequences, no apologies. Some people call me vindictive. I call myself scientifically thorough. Some say I overreacted. I say I reacted proportionally to systematic fraud. Some think I should have handled it privately. I think public deception deserves public correction. The cathedral incident taught me something valuable. Evidence-based decision-making applies to relationships just like research. Document everything. Trust data over promises. And never, ever marry someone whose medical history contradicts their life plans. Also, if someone's going to destroy your wedding, make sure you're the one controlling the narrative. Turns out the best revenge isn't living well. It's living well with receipts.